I figured this would be a good place to start re-uploading some of the fan art that's been shown over the years, while we go ahead and talk about what kind of video we're going to be doing. So this is going to be a different kind of video, not the kind that I'm used to doing on here. Normally I talk about decks and utility and all that other stuff, like Magic the Gathering specifically stuff. But what I haven't talked about is the type of stuff that you bring with you to the card shop. The things that you want to make sure you have on you when you go. And these are the things that I personally bring with me, but there's a caveat here. These are all things that I 3D printed. So this is going to be just some really, really cool utility things you can bring with you to your card shop that if you have a 3D printer or a friend with a 3D printer, you can just make and have ready to go. So let's go ahead and get into everything that we got going on today. Now, the first one we've got is a 3D printed deck box by Dr. Cameron, and it's a pretty basic 3D printed deck box. It looks okay in the filament that I've got it in, but this deck box has a special quirk about it, actually, that we got to talk about. This deck box, uniquely, after we open it up, becomes both our library for holding our library and our graveyard, complete with symbols from Innistrad on it. And I honestly think that that is really freaking cool. So obviously, whenever you're playing a game of Commander, you have your deck out wherever you're going to have it. I have it in the lower right-hand corner because I began as a Yu-Gi-Oh player. So you'll put your library in your library area, and anytime one of your cards is destroyed, you go ahead and toss it in the graveyard itself. And honestly, there's just something very satisfying about putting your graveyard cards in your graveyard, especially when you're playing as many Reanimator decks as I do, where literally pulling a card out of a graveyard, it just tickles the brain in all the right ways. I will let you know, however, it would behoove you, if you have 3D printed this deck box, to play with some of the values in Blender a little bit, unless you do not want it to be used for storage and you just want it to be used for play. I have an obscenely sized backpack that I'll probably do a video on at some point when I talk about other Magic the Gathering accessories, but if you do not have a lot of extra space, using this as your deck storage will run into some problems. So even if there's not a deck in here, notice how it's already loosening up there? It's very easy for the actual top of it to come off. So please note, the purpose of this is entirely for show and for the catharsis of having a deck box that doubles as a library and graveyard. If you want it to be more functional, you are going to have to make some adjustments in Blender for that. Unless Dr. Cameron makes an update to this and has made one that I'm not aware of. This is an STL that is about 7 years old at this point. Maybe there is an update to this by now, but I haven't found one on the internet. So just keep that in mind. The next one we have to talk about is a D6 holder by Oblivion Star. The link to this and everything else will be loaded into the description for those of you who would like access to these for printing or for sending to a friend. But this is a 16mm dice holder, and honestly, it feels great in the hand. It's nice and sturdy. You don't have to print it with extra walls, though I do tend to print these with more than just 2 walls if you are printing them. And because I happen to play hardened scales, having easy access to a ton of D6s is incredibly helpful for me. And because it is held on a lanyard, we do have very easy access to our dice here. And if you have any touch of ADHD, you may have a similar problem to what I have, where all of your dice have to be in sequential order, going from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in every single variation possible. That's a me problem. Don't think that's just going to be a me problem, though. Everybody ends up falling for that problem eventually. And a thing to note with this one, you do need to have access to some smaller screws in order to put it together, because this lanyard, you need to buy a lanyard, thread it through the bottom, tie it off at the bottom, probably put some hot glue at the bottom to make sure that it doesn't budge, and then tie it up, or end it all with these screws here, and then you have a very functional case that will basically survive damn near anything you throw at it. It's not that bad, and this is one of the personal ones I keep with me. But if you like smaller dice, the one that I'm going to talk about next, you might actually enjoy a little bit more. Alrighty, so this next dice holder is my personal favorite. Again, as a D6 enjoyer, because I do play a lot of hardened scales, this particular dice holder from Rixquin is a remix of another one, but I will be providing Rixquin's version in the description, as it's the one that I use. This one has a couple of handy features. One, it doesn't require you to print it with any extra screws or anything. You don't need to buy extra screws or a lanyard to put it together. However, it does have one caveat, and that is this lid. Now, typically when you're 3D printing something, you don't use 100% infill on everything because it takes a lot of filament to do that. However, if you are printing this one, please make sure to print this piece right here with 100% infill. Otherwise, the screw that this uses to keep it in place will actually end up breaking at some point. It may feel solid at first because it is a very well-made 3D model, but trust me, without 100% infill, eventually this thing will end up breaking on you. So please make sure that you do your due diligence, make sure that this particular lid is printed well, and this will serve you very, very well. It's also much smaller in terms of size compared to the other dice container, so this one fits perfectly in a nook in my bag, whereas this one I tend to have out and about if I'm using it. I'll tend to put this like on the end of a set of keys or something, whereas this one, again, this one just fits really easy into most bags. You can kind of just drop this into one and it'll be perfectly fine. This is definitely my preferred of the two, but I like them both and I use them both. Alright, this next one holds a special place in my heart because secret layers tend to come in Pringled varieties a lot of the time when you are picking up stuff from Wizards of the Coast. So this one is actually the Magic the Gathering foil cards uncurlator from Sploosh. This particular print is super neat because all you have to do is take your card that is curled for her pleasure by Wizards, place it in the uncurlator, set it like so, and then in about 20 to 30 minutes, the card will actually be completely bent back into shape. It will fight against whatever curling the card naturally has due to moisture or anything else. And then after this, just put it in a deck box with a silica gel packet or something, and that'll help take care of any excess moisture after you force the card into its correct shape. Then you obviously want to dry it out. Moisture is the enemy of cards, especially foil cards, and of course, when they are curling, it really, really sucks because it's easier to find those cards in your decks once they are curled. But the curlator is fantastic at removing those curls even after just a little bit of time. It's already taken a decent bit of the curl out of this Savra, so we just need to go ahead and place this in here for just a little while longer, and we'll end up having a Savra that is of the correct shape to go back in her sleeve. So, I hope you end up using that one because I have gotten a ton of use out of it. Alright, this next one is a personal favorite of mine and of the tables that I play with at my LGS. This guy right here is a very, very interesting beast. This is actually a dice tower, however, it comes with a little trick to it. So, it sits about like this. It can fit into most bags, and then after you open it up, there is just enough room to hold the actual tower itself and some tokens. I use these right-on dry erase tokens because I have a lot of decks that use copies and a lot of decks that use very particular kinds of tokens that are really unique to themselves, and I don't always want to find a Beast Within token when I'm getting rid of my opponent's stuff, so I tend to keep these on hand. These are really, really cheap to pick up, but the actual magic is here in this particular dice container. So you take out these two halves after you've printed them. It is a multi-part print. This folds out into a staircase like so, and then latches onto the bottom like that, and then your top part turns into another staircase. It sits directly on the top like that, and now you have a dice tower. They're not folded out perfectly because I am not good at my job, obviously. Now you have a perfect dice tower that you can use for rolling your dice in the middle of your Commander game. as long as you don't get them stuck on the top like I do, because I am a plebeian and I am not good at anything I do. But it is a very, very satisfying print to have things roll off repeatedly. I enjoy it a ton, and the fact that it holds my tokens on top of it, it just makes it perfect, because I'm already going to be using those tokens anyway, and I don't like my dice flying off the table in the middle of my games if somebody's playing like a Mr. House deck, or I'm just having to fidget around with those die in the middle of the game, or we're just rolling off at the beginning. I prefer my cards not going everywhere, my dice not going everywhere, rather. So I'd rather have one of these available, and then we go ahead and just put our tokens back in place. Everything gets flattened down, and then our lid goes back on like so. I say like so. And then we are good to go. We're back off to the races. This gets to go back in our bag. So you got a portable dice tower that holds all your tokens as well. I think this is a perfect little thing for you to have at your commander tables, especially if you're sitting at one for 3 or 4 hours. It gives you something to do in the middle of games, and it's way more fun to roll dice off a tower. I'm not even gonna lie. This last one is either going to be the bane of all of your friends or the savior of your mental health when you're dealing with a Super Friends player at a commander table. You know that person that plays a deck that goes on for about 10 or 20 minutes a turn and you just want them to stop? Well, you can't really make them stop, but what you can do is you can do something to pass the time. These little fractal fidget stars are amazing. These are from Chuckaduck. The STL for this will be linked in the description below. And these guys are wonderful for fidgeting. They feel funny. They make a very, very interesting sound, which your table is either going to hate or find endearing, depending on the type of people you are playing with. But these are just an absolute blast to play with when you are waiting for somebody to take their turn for God knows how long. And finally, this one is a special one. This one is for when you are dealing with a particularly toxic kind of player, and the only thing you want to do is fucking end it all. This is a speed loader for a 9mm. You can use this to make sure you... I'm sorry, I've just been informed by my lawyer that jokes about killing myself are not great on the internet, so I'm probably just not going to talk about that anymore. Anyways, hopefully y'all enjoyed that. I may do another video like this talking about some other things you can make that are fun for using in a game of Commander or for various other versions of Magic the Gathering, though honestly the tool set you use for all those is probably going to be about the same. But I figured this would be a fun little video since I've taken a bit of a small hiatus from making videos recently. I didn't have time to make videos when I went to the Capitol, so I got really behind on work. But these are things that I've been using myself, and I've been enjoying them a lot, and I'm going to go ahead and provide the files to you guys so you can enjoy them as well. Credit to everybody who was involved in making these particular files that I've been using. These are links to, as far as I can tell, the original creators of each of these, outside of the ones that I know are strictly remixes. But let me know what you guys think. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys like it, I might do some more like this. Hit the like button if you haven't already, and as always, everyone, insert end of video tagline here. Hey, I just quickly want to give a thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who keep this show running. YouTube and Twitch are a pretty bumpy ride at the best of times, and the stability that Patreon provides me is worth more than I can say here. I'd also like to thank each and every one of my $20 and up patrons here, and they would be Red Joker, Blitzkrieg, Cameron, Dren, Jemshin, Smiling DM, Poundini, Mabbity Babbity, Naomi, Isaac, Agamotto, Jordan, Ravi, Giuni, Kiratorian, Prisma, all of you, Sagitt, I'm not saying that part, and Starlight. And finally, thank you to everyone else that helps keep this channel alive. While you're here, why not check out another video? And thank you for watching.